What a day, what a day. Day 2 of Monster Hunter World, and I am fully engrossed. I'm in. I am going to tell you the tale of my first wall that I have hit that is now plaguing my brain whenever I stop streaming. I don't want to do anything that's not on stream for the people who are following along. And I'm just sat there going, oh my god, I just have this idea and I want to do it and I can't do it. Ah! Day 2 started with the plan that I talked about yesterday. It's like I wanted to use the environment more, I wanted to mess with this and that, and figure out more of the mechanics outside of just straight combat. Taking that Souls-like gameplay that I'm used to and like, okay, well, let's add in all these extra elements that the game is trying to get me to mess with, right? Traps and things like that. I made some blunders, but that's okay. That's okay. So when I came in, the first thing I thought to do is like, I should probably do the side quests, because the side quests that constantly pop up are all about like upgrading the base. There's a tree thing that like grows materials for you, and one of the things that I've got it doing is growing honey, because that honey is one of the ingredients to make mega potions, and when we're out and about, having mega potions is great. I generally have, because I'm not using a lot of the stuff yet, I'm not short of any of those supplies. So right now it's just like mega potions. Thumbs up, let's get mega potions. So I've got them brewing that up, and then there's like a research thing. And I was like, there's so many NPCs that are telling me things, like field guides, which are now telling me like weaknesses of certain enemies. And now the weapon customization is becoming more apparent. There are still things I don't know. I still don't know what affinity is. And there was another stat that actually popped up later in this gameplay session when I got to like the next tier of the game. That is a new one on me, and I'm like, I don't know what that is either. I have no idea. Like, elements, sure, I can figure that out, but what these things are, I don't know. I think I'm ultimately, it does not appear to be in the game. I think ultimately this is going to be a case of Googling it, but I'm going to give it another day and see if I can sort of figure it out by messing around with it. So I had the field guide, and then the other one, when I started getting to the optional quests, is it kept telling me whenever I came back from a quest, it's like, you have deliveries to turn in, and I'm like, I do remember something about deliveries, and I remember it saying they auto did something, so I was like, but it's telling me to turn them in, so I must have to go somewhere. So I went and like visited all the NPCs again and found the NPC that gave me like bounties, and then it unlocked investigations, because when I kill certain things it says investigation unlocked, and I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. There was probably a tutorial. I'll freely admit this game has hours of tutorials that it throws at you, just screen after screen of them. Basically, for the first, I want to say 6 hours of gameplay, 6 to 7 hours, every time you do something, a new tutorial pops up to try and explain some of the game systems. After hours of that, I am just so massively uninterested in the pause of my gameplay. That pacing could be done better, or just have generally less systems. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes less is more. You can get a great quality thing with less is more, and introduce things later on. But I didn't feel in the first 6 7 hours like it was just letting me enjoy playing the game. It was like, oh, you moved a foot forward. Well, we should explain this new thing to you. Oh, you did another foot. Let's explain this new thing to you. So I do get frustrated with that kind of stuff. Some people love it and will spend ages reading every single paragraph of whatever information is in the game over and over again, and like, oh, we got new notes to do it. I'm not that guy. I want to get going. I want to have some time playing. Same issue I had with Mass Effect 1, is it like it just bombards you with exposition for the first like few hours, and you're like, I just want to play the game, man. So yes, probably some things I've missed. But by going around and messing around, we tend to find them out. That's my gut feeling. Like I'm going to bump into this at some point, and usually a game menu system isn't so complex that I don't understand what it's supposed to do. So I found these bouncy investigations. These are really interesting, because what I found is that I can sign up for these arenas against certain enemies, and then I had like daily quests essentially in a very Guild Wars 2 style, or Guild Wars style. Which was like, fulfill a couple of like battle contents and we'll give you like a bunch of bonus rewards, which are like bonus armor spheres and things like that. I was like, that's pretty cool. Let's see what these are. And it's literally just a straight up arena where you fight certain enemies you've killed before. So cool. I did that, and then you found out you could skin them as well. And I was like, isn't this kind of a hack to get materials? And I'll be honest with you, I did ask the question later, because I was wondering, I was torn between what this system was, because there's a bunch of them. There's a huge amount of these things. Is this like the never-ending gameplay loop? which a lot of games have, right? They have some sort of system in the game that allows you to play continuously outside of the main story. You have the main story, and then you have this, like, continuous gameplay mode that you can go into. Is that what this is? So you can log in with your friends, you can do, like, your dailies, quote-unquote, get these things done, get the big bonus rewards. There's, like, a wintertime event that's happening right now. Is that what this is? Or is this, like, a fully functioning part of the game that's supposed to be done alongside, like, the main stuff? And the answer was kind of, yeah, and... so it looks like it is a great way of going farming materials. That was cool. Unlocking that and finding the deliveries, that was nice. And then I finished all the optional quests. My god. The egg quests. Okay. It makes sense to me to expand the canteen to essentially get better food buffs, because food buffs are kind of a big deal. And the chef started asking for, like, extra ingredients or do certain side quests, and we'll expand the canteen to have more ingredients, which means we should probably be able to make more things. I actually think I've not done anywhere near enough with the food of the game, because it seems to me that the game is like, hey, here's the canteen with certain recipes which will give you, like, specific buffs. However, what you could do is you can mess around yourself in a more Breath of the Wild style to see what pops out the other end. Also, you can have your handler cook things for you while you're on missions. And when you come back, they will be ready for you. On top of that, you can also then sell whatever they produce. And I'm like, wait, is this like a money-making hack? There's a whole sphere of the game. It's same with fishing. I haven't fished a single thing that I think is untouched and maybe actually extraordinarily powerful, which we'll probably need to get into. But the egg quests. Okay. I kind of was okay with the first one. The first one had me go out into the sort of swampy, deserty wasteland and track herbivore eggs. Okay, so we could use logic to figure out what kind of eggs we're looking for, because as you start the level, there are some herbivores wandering around that are completely peaceful to you, and they are just roaming around. I was like, well, they're herbivores. So when I wandered around and didn't find the nest, I was like, I'm going to go back to where they're hanging out. Their nest must be nearby. Sure enough, there it was. And the egg quest, if you've never done it in Monster Hunter World, you pick up a very large egg, and you can't be hit by enemies, and you can't run out of stamina or you drop it. And that's, yeah. That's actually more awkward than you might realize. So I ended up just murdering every creature, which has a really quick respawn rate, by the way. But when you pick up one of their eggs, they obviously become hostile to you and start chasing you down. But I did that one relatively quickly, a little bit fun. I was like, this could get my future sight, based on the vast history of video games I have, was like, this is going to get horrible later on. Like, really bad. And sure enough, it did. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the tale of the egg quest with the Rathalos. I think that's the correct name. I had another egg quest. I had been to a different zone. When I came back, I had a ton more quests to upgrade the facilities, and I was like, I should probably do these. And I actually haven't finished these, because where we got to is like a really hard, the wall that we're going to get to later. And as soon as I opened the list, I kind of like to work through them in order. The top one was go and get some more eggs. And I was like, okay. This is going to start ramping up. It started so well. It really did. It started so well. As I went into the very beginning zone, I was like, oh, it's the actual first zone we ever did. I'm kind of familiar with this territory now. And was looking around for wyvern eggs. And I'm like, well, where would they be? I don't remember there being wyverns in this zone. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, where would they be? So I'm wandering around, and sure enough, there's like little dinosaurs, and there's some friendlies, and like, well, they're not wyverns. So I was like, well, maybe they're up. They should be up in the sky in like a perch or a rocky outcrop or something along those lines. So I'm mooching around, and I entered a cave, and sure enough, at that point, Rathalos descended. Rathalos, if you remember from yesterday's video, was the terrifying monster that arrived and murdered Ajanath right in front of me in seconds, and is clearly like the daddy of this area. And I was like, oh god. But I'm also like stronger now, and I'm more powerful. And one big change I had from my first few hours of gameplay is my DPS has skyrocketed. If I can get on the enemy, I can really mess it up very quickly. And so I dived in, and I was like, I'm not dying. But I have no fire resistance. If this thing fireballs me, I'm dead. And sure enough, it did catch me with a fireball and just one-shot me straight out. And I was like, okay, so we still have to be careful. Very dangerous enemy, but I was like really engrossed in the fight. And I was like, I think we could do this. And I was like fighting on the beach. I was fighting it in the cave. It was running around and doing all this stuff. And then sure enough, I plunged my sword into it and managed to get the big kill. And that took 30 minutes from start of the level, right? Not immediately engaging combat, but I'm like 30 minutes in now. And I'm like, that was sick. That was awesome. Maybe we can make new armor, Rathalos armor. That's awesome. That's really great. Anyway, about these eggs. And so I'm wandering around and I'm like looking for the eggs. And it did not occur to me that the wyvern in question was the Rathalos. Because I knew where that nest was. In fact, you finished the fight right there. And it just didn't dawn on me at all. From my image of a wyvern in my head compared to what a Rathalos is, I was like, I considered that to be a dragon, essentially, like a small dragon. And I was like, wandering around the level, I went everywhere for another 10, 15 minutes. And those of you who play Monster Hunter World know the issue that's about to come up is that you only have 50 minutes in the zone to complete a mission. I was running out of time. And then it got mentioned as like, I wonder what kind of creature Rathalos is. And I was like, mother of... I can't say it here on YouTube, but I was like, God damn it, man. So I had to sprint all the way up there, and sure enough, there's the eggs, as like the 10-minute timer was almost about to drop on me. Now, interestingly enough, all you have to do with the egg is pick it up and carry it to the closest campsite. That's it. There's a campsite directly next to where the nest is. So I was, in my mind, I was like, oh, the point of this quest is the Rathalos defends the eggs. So you have to kill the Rathalos in order to access the eggs in order to then get to the campsite, which is pretty close. But the main challenge of this mission is to actually kill the Rathalos, and then you get the egg quest as a bonus. So I set my little pin off to it, and immediately they must have been laughing and laughing and laughing in the dev room when they did this. Is the camp is really close to you, and you can't get to it. Because the only ways to it are via, like, crawling or pushing through reeds that you cannot do with the egg. Like, it is right in front of you. And you're stood there like a moron with this giant egg. And you just can't progress. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go off. There must be another route to it, right? So I, like, go down and twist around. And then the route changes. Because you have these, like, green sprites that are guiding, like, waypoints. And they changed. I was like, oh, cool. These are going to... And take me to another thing where you had to hurl yourself. There's no fall damage in the game. So you have to hurl yourself off this cliff in order to land where the camp is. Because it's really far down. And you can't do that with the egg either. And I was losing my mind. I was absolutely losing my mind as the 10-minute countdown popped up. I'm like, I can't do this again because I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to kill the Rathalos again and then figure this out. So I was like, the only thing I could do is go back to the original base camp, which is literally... The Rathalos nest is in the far northeast of the map, and the camp is in the far southwest of the map. It's a long way. And you can be... Obviously, there's monsters all over the place, and if one of them hits you, the egg falls down and you have to start again. So I was like, I have to do this. And sure enough, to their credit, they obviously wanted you to figure this out, or, and a lesson I might take away from this, is they might not be sure you've uncovered other camps in the zone, because you can do that as you progress a zone. And so they're all kind of based with getting back to the main base camp. You can make it. And as I got there, it said 5 minutes remaining. I was like, I'm going to fail this because I have to run all the way to the other edge of the map and then all along the diagonal as well. And multiple levels up. And I ran, sprinting my way through it. You can imagine from a stream perspective as well. My audience is loving this nightmare. They are laughing their heads off as what's going on. I can't see the chat, but the vibe is there, and I can hear Chris laughing in the office behind me as it's happening. And I got the egg. I ran back. Now, interestingly enough, now I knew what I was doing. Praise be. I got it back with 2 minutes to spare. It was only actually a 3-minute journey. Once you know what you've got to do, it's not that bad. But what that last 25 minutes... Some of the nicest things that happen to me as a streamer is occasionally I'll get a message that's like, Mike, I was in a really bad place today, mentally. Like, things are going on in my life, because we all have stuff going on. But watching you with this bloody egg has made it all go away. And I'm glad my misery can entertain you in some way. So we got that done. That was one of the big journeys. The next big thing I kind of want to talk about is I got to the next tier of zones. I mentioned it earlier. So it looks to me like what the game does is it like gives you it's like tier 1, and you can max that out relatively early. Like I had the top end weapon and I had the best armor I think I could get. And then the game like moves up another block and another tier of upgrades will unlock and things like that. So we got to tier 2, which was like the coral area where I had to fight a big inflated cotton mouse thing. I'm getting... One thing I'll say is that at this point I feel relatively comfortable with the combat, to the point that I'm not afraid of fighting anything at the moment, and I might change weapon if that continues to be the case, because I've gotten very comfortable with the switch axe and punishing with it. And so I've wrecked a few of the larger enemies. The game is kind of, it even openly tells you, it's like, you should probably come back later and fight this. But I'm like, nah, we can do it. And we have every single time. It's done that. So we did this with the 2 main enemies of the coral area, and then I went to a decrepit, diseased area where all the putridness and the runoff and the rot has fallen down. Very Dark Souls style again. Not quite Blighttown, more like Caelid, but like a not as bad Caelid type area, where we got attacked by this giant monstrous rolling creature. I killed it. Again, not really afraid, managed to take it down. One thing that did happen during the scene is a massive interactive QTE cutscene occurred where I was on its head or its back, and I was like stabbing it with daggers and then doing like this huge punishing damages, and it was like a QTE thing. I don't know why that happened. It's happened twice in total in the 16 hours we've played so far. We're 16 hours in, and part of me is like, this might be a story beat, but this wasn't a story enemy. I think there's a way of initiating those things, and I don't know what it is just yet. I slid down a ramp and then it happened. I didn't press anything, it just happened. So I'm wondering if it's a case of if you can get high elevation and land on an enemy, like a large enemy, this thing initiates. If so, I want to try that out today if I possibly can. Because I have well, the weird thing that happens, I got told I have a glider, and it's like, here's your glider. I can't find it anywhere in my inventory. I don't know where it is. It's not where the ghillie suit is. So I'm like, where is this thing? I've looked around twice now, and I'm like, did I not get it? Maybe I need to finish a quest before it'll give it me. I can't quite remember. That's going on. But we did this Caelid zone. But then I came back because I needed to upgrade some items and noticed that the initial zone, Astera, I think it's called, was now full of new side quests. And every single one of them was like, we can upgrade the tree growing area now to include insects, like thunderbugs, to make traps and things like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the guy was like, we have more food we can make, which doesn't involve eggs. Thumbs up. All these kinds of things were happening. So I was like, this is probably the time we do all our side quests and upgrade everything, because we want to be able to craft the latest and greatest stuff, right? And the quest that popped up in front of me was to hunt a Rathalos. I've killed Rathalos. I'm all right with hunting Rathalos. That's fine. I'm totally down with killing a Rathalos. And this is the wall. Yeah. This is the point I've been waiting for in a video game. And I know many of you don't play it the way I do, but I don't engage much with many of the deeper mechanics unless the game kind of puts me in a position where I need to. This is when it happened, because this Rathalos has a name. This Rathalos is called Diablos. And Diablos one-shots me with practically everything it does. And it was a massacre. I got the 3 feints, which you're allowed. You're allowed to die 3 times before you get kicked out. Happened very quickly. Like, if I touched its hitbox, like the hitbox and the hitboxes and stuff like this are not... I know I keep bringing up Dark Souls, but it's a similar third-person action combat style, right? So you forgive me for that. It's not Dark Souls style. It's not. The hitbox pawn is not there. It's close, but it's not quite there, which is fine. That's what FromSoft has been known for years and years and years. So occasionally you will just, like, touch something and just take, like, 1 billion damage, even though you mentally and position-wise were like, I'm going to move here, and then I'm going to roll this way in order to make something happen, but you'll just get clobbered and die. And if I touched, like, a scale of Diablos, I was dead. And then it just rampaged and killed everything, and I was like, oh god. And then I came back and tried it again. Did a little better, but, like, we're talking a little better. I'm talking about maybe hit it 3 times, and it killed me again. And I was like, okay, now we need to engage with the game. Love this. So the first thing I did was go and check all my armor. Realized I could make some Rathalos legs that were like 20 more armor. So for context, armor has like values of like 6 up to 12 with upgrades. This started at like 20 and went all the way up. And I was like, okay, let's make these legs. These legs are pretty solid, right? Because I'm getting battered into the floor. Let's make these legs, upgrade the rest of our armor to where we can get it, because that's what we have right now. We could go and farm more of the normal Rathalos. This is not a normal Rathalos. In order to get the full set, that might be something I do. Don't know. I haven't killed it yet. I noticed that I had the next tier of upgrades for my weapon, but I need to go and farm the later zones to get the materials for it, but I can do that as well. I can also check the field guide, so I engage with that mechanic, and it's like, it's weak to dragon type. Not sure what element that is, but sure. And I can make a dragon... a dragon proficient weapon, so it does more damage against dragon. It does this dragon element, so I can make that, but I need to go and farm higher tier stuff. So that's an option. But I upgrade everything I did. I did the best food buff I could get from the canteen, and I was like, I need to think about traps. So I made myself some stun traps, electric shock traps. One thing that's still bugging me is that the people who use ranged weapons like guns and bows have a seemingly endless array of coatings and damage weaknesses they can put on them. Melee seems to be locked to crafting the type of weapon rather than applying like an oil, like coating your weapon in poison. Melee doesn't seem to be able to do that, but they can craft a weapon that passively has it. So there's that approach. So I couldn't do that, but I did notice the guy was selling large explosive barrels. And I was like, well, I haven't played with barrels yet either, so we can do that. Because I have bumped into certain terrain that's like a powerful thing, and this is going to come relevant later. A powerful impact will shatter this and turn it into a sinkhole to trap monsters in. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's cool. And it's in the same zone that we're fighting diablos. So I got all prepared, right? I turned up, I had the biggest food buff, I sorted my inventory out, I used item loadouts. Every day we're like giving a request to the chat where they have a vote and they talk amongst themselves of like, what one thing do you think I should check out that I'm ignoring? Yesterday it was item loadouts. Like, it comes in with a Chris decree item loadouts. And I was like, what is that? Oh, it fixes my inventory to make sure I'm set for when I go out. Cool. So I sorted that out, had my stuff, did forget mega potions, whatever. And then off I went on this journey. I fought this thing as I had to... literally what happened is I had to fight this... This Rathalos has so much HP. Diablos has so much health. And hurts me so badly. But I could survive now. That we fought all over the zone. It was an epic battle. It was like Peter Griffin versus the chicken. Just all over the place. It was tunneling through the floor. You can't do more than a couple of swings because its animations are so fast that it can change into a different maneuver and you can't get out of your animation and it will kill you. Had to learn all this kind of stuff. Goofed up a number of things. I thought that like putting an explosive barrel down and having the Diablos charge through it would detonate it. That is not the case. So I thought it would be more like a trap. Like if it runs over the trap, it gets stunned. That did not happen. And then figured out that, oh, you have to put the barrel down, then you have to shoot it with the slingshot, and then it will detonate and do something. So I was like, cool. And then I went to where the sinkhole thing was. I didn't have any barrels left, but I was like, well, this thing literally tunnels underground and shoots out like a sandworm. That's got to set off whatever this is. And it didn't. So now I suspect that I need the barrels to actually activate it intentionally, and it's not just a case of an enormous monster is on it. That's what's going to cause it. Unless I have to, like, knock it over on there or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure these things out. I got really close to killing this. I think so. I think I got very, very close to killing it when I just got stomped by one attack that just ended me in the most brutal way on my last feint. And I had to sit back as this was happening because it was like past 5 o'clock, which is usually when I'm available as a human being again and not a streamer. I had 8 phone calls that were happening of people trying to reach me because they know to call me after that time. And I'm looking at my phone constantly going from different people. And I'm like, oh, I have to leave. And that's where we are. But now I have that rage, right? That rage. Like, I'm going to murder this Diablo. So it's my first thing this morning is to get in there and just figure this out and figure everything else that's going out and get into it. But what a game so far. I don't know where this leads. I don't know if this is what we're fighting like 16 hours in. I'm really curious as to what's, 30 hours in. But, of course, you'll be along for the ride, so stay tuned for that, guys, and I'll be back with you. All right? Bye.